Jaz, thank you very much for joining us in this first video interview.
Woohoo!
Yeah, we usually do just videos as articles on our website, but when you suggested this, what was I going to do? Turn it down? Absolutely not. Now, to jump into question number one, to take a page out of Action Jackson's book, because he's worked with us as well, and one thing that he talks about is students having a brand. So, you know, your brand seems to be your passion, humor, and of course, resilience. You do say that you're a resilience ninja. Now, why are these qualities important for education, both for pupils and for teachers?
Well, I mean, honestly, so I'm a teacher and I'm a literacy consultant, because literacy, reading, writing, spelling, are my tickets out of poverty. So it kind of made sense that I would be interested in them. And, you know, that's why I went into teaching, to make a difference. So up until April this year, really, I've just done that. I say just, I've done that. And it got to the point where you know, people would come up to me and say, oh, you did a talk like 10 years ago. It changed our school. It changed our LA. And I wasn't feeling it anymore. I'm just like, that's good. And I literally just didn't really engage with it or feel it. And so that's why at a Teach Me, when I had this great literacy talk planned, I thought, I wonder what would happen if I just told the truth. And instead of, you know, doing what I usually do, I said, look, listen, you're here of an evening and you're all exhausted, and it's incredible that you would come out because you want to do the best for your kids. And that's awesome. And I know you're knackered and exhausted about the stuff you usually do, but I've got to tell you something, that the impact you make can't be measured in an observation lesson. It's bigger than that. And this is why. So it just kind of spilled out. And then I didn't really have a plan. I was just going to run off afterwards. That was my plan. But I didn't, you know, I hadn't thought about brand, because up until then my brand was keep your head down and keep your mouth shut. I mean, it was like, don't make a fuss. You know, that's for everything. I remember at Teacher Training College, one of my tutors said, listen, if you want to succeed in education, you need to learn to blend in more. And I remember thinking, what, with this hair and this bum, I am not going to be able to blend. This brown person at the college, how am I going to blend? So,
Sure.
I took that on. And I was, you know, everyone knew my personal life about my story. It's never been a secret, but professionally, I was hiding. I was, you know, not smiling till Christmas and trying to be, you know, a leader and playing this role that wasn't me. So I think what suddenly happened was that I just decided that maybe, like all teachers, maybe I'm better than that. Maybe I'm worth more than that. Maybe, you know, maybe me is valuable rather than what I'm trying to be. And really, I think it sums up in authenticity. What I realized is that the only reason I'm even here, especially in education, was because of 5 teachers. And when I pinpoint what those 5 teachers did, is that they made a connection with me, a human connection. They built a relationship with me. And yeah, they taught me the bus stop method for long division, and some might have mentioned geography at some point. Not that I was listening, but,
Sure.
but actually the reason I connected and springboarded from that connection was because of the authenticity, the human element. And that's the brand I'm trying to create. And I kind of feel like you have to, it's like any teacher, you model it first, don't you? So I'm in my kind of authenticity and vulnerability. It's not like this costs me. I mean, it's like, it's not, you know, I'd rather be sitting listening to me than actually being me as a speaker, because I'd rather not know the stuff I know. But actually what I found is that it gives people, I call it agency. People say, you give me permission, you give me confidence, you give me, you know, a shift into, because I do talk, I want people to make a mindset shift in their seat and then go take action afterwards. So the brand is really of everyday heroes. It's like, I know you're knackered, I know you're exhausted, I know the government wants to kill you. I get all that.
Yeah.
And you are the last advocate for those young people. And you mean everything. So embrace that, own it. And if you really care, look after yourself first. Don't give me this rubbish about, oh, I'm marking till 10, Sandra, I never go home, Sandra. Well, then you don't care. If you care, you would look after yourself first. I don't even need to explain it. That we know that. So it's just a case of rejigging. So it's not even empowering. I'm trying to get teachers to own the brand that I know they already are, which is an everyday hero.
Okay. Now, many people watching this will have seen your TEDx talk, The Power of Everyday Heroes. I just saying that. Now, I watched this again, as you'd imagine, before this interview, and it's still a pretty emotional watch. It's really, really good. It's pretty raw, which I really like. Now, one thing that you mentioned actually when we first started, before the camera started rolling, is that you had it in your head until fairly recently. This was about, 18 months ago, you thought? But of course, it came out in March 2017?
I think it was April. I haven't had enough time to get pregnant and give birth between when I did that TED Talk and now. So, but I was convinced, I lost a bet. I was convinced it was last year because so much has happened. I've been on a 10-year journey in 8 months. So I literally, I could not believe it was only April. Yeah.
No, well, yeah. So with that in mind, because we're recording this at the end of December. I mean, one of the reasons why I have bought a Christmas jumper is to date this video as little as possible. But we're recording this at the end of December.
Told everyone when it is. It's summer. It's summertime.
It's whenever you're watching it. It's like
now.
How have things changed for you? Because of course, you're a teacher, you're a speaker, people know you, but this seems to, you're a former apprentice, and you very boldly took a leadership role very early on there. But how has this changed things in just the last several months for you?
Everything has changed. It started with Teach Meet London a couple of months before that, where I kind of abandoned my usual talk and just said your heroes. I didn't go into anywhere near the detail I did in the TED Talk. Nobody was crying at the end. There wasn't a standing ovation. But it was just, I just wanted to hint at something. I was kind of finding my way myself. And but what's interesting is it's like, there's that story, the wind and the sun, because I'm a reception teacher, where the wind's, they're having a bet trying to get that man's coat off, and the wind is blowing and howling, the man's pulling his coat closer, and then the wind's exhausted and goes, he'll never take it off, go on, you have a go. And the sun just shines, and man takes his coat off. That's what the difference has been. So up until the TED Talk, it's about me pushing and working and focusing and balance, and suddenly I've just gone, do you know what? And my book is called Because of You, This Is Me. And it's just about being not just neutral. It's not therapy, it's not it's just neutral. This is what happened. This is who I am because of you. And so the biggest change for me has really been, it sounds bonkers, but being acknowledged, valued, accepted for the kind of, hot mess, slightly intelligent sometimes that I am. Sure. And I think that's the whole point, isn't it? Being able to use your talents and skills for good, that's what fulfillment looks like. I mean, I had success before, but this is fulfillment. And apart from that, it's kind of, what is weird when I speak at a conference, it's like every time someone asks me to speak, I'm like, oh my gosh. And every time someone pays me for speaking, I'm like, that's awesome. I'm earning money for doing this.
And you know that you're helping people. You know this because people tell you that, and you can see.
The best thing for me, so there's three things. This is me being totally honest. When I come off stage, there's always people crying. Like, I'm going to have tissues, as I'm going to buy shares in Kleenex because everybody cries all the time. That's what I do, and I've just got comfortable with that now. It's a good thing. It's a good thing about me. So the first thing people say is, you're amazing, and I'm like, listen, I can stay at home in my pajamas, and my husband will tell me that. I don't need to pay for childcare for 3 kids and come all the way here for you to take that away. There has to be something more. It's not about me. Tell me about you. The second thing is, you're inspirational. You've inspired me. And I'm like, that's great, but inspire is a verb. So what have I inspired you to do? Because it's not about, isn't this great? Now let me go back to my life. I want to know what the shift is. And I think that's and then the best thing I get, because I'm always a bit overwhelmed when I've spoken and people kind of come up, and I always feel like I'm missing, I can't connect with everyone, I'm missing people out. It's the emails and the messages and the tweets and the DMs and the actual letters that people send me afterwards. I am so humbled and honored to be part of that journey for people. I am, it is the best thing about my life. It's redemptive because this started because I couldn't, it started as a reaction to my brother's overdose. But I can't.
Before he was 40, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks before his birthday. And I remember going through it all, and it was like the week of The Apprentice. So it was just, God, that's why I'm a resilience ninja. I don't know how I survived that week.
It's quite a week.
Oh my gosh. I broke on the Monday, and then somehow got to Manchester Tuesday and then broke again on it was just raw. The whole week was raw chaos.
Yeah.
But the response to that, after the grief comes to waves rather than tidal waves, was just this rising of like, no, I can't do this anymore. I won't do, it's a choice. I won't do this anymore. I couldn't save Paul. That's not going to happen again. And that was kind of so it's redemptive in the sense of, I know that poverty is still rife. I know that, despite what some MPs say, I know that children still have a massive disconnect between school, and I know the fix, and it's so simple and it's so easy, and it's what people came into education to do, make a difference. We just get lost with data and all the other stuff we've got to do. So I think what's changed, for me, is that I get to be the real me, and that people just it's such an honor to be part of people's journeys and to open the door for people and to be a catalyst for change for people. It's just, it's more than I could ever have dreamed of.
Yeah. In your TEDx talk, which we'll link to, by the way, just to make sure that the few people who haven't seen it do go and watch.
It's 11,000 teachers. I'm so excited.
That's great, and justifiably so. In that, you do bring out some pretty heavy guns. You're talking about how you were a victim of some horrendous child abuse. Not all child abuse is horrendous, but you get me. And as of recording, we're also in the midst of the Me Too movement, where you've got some very brave people like Rose McGowan and Salma Hayek, very well-known public figures coming forward and talking about their just atrocious experiences. When it comes to schools and pupils, be it in a subject like literacy or PhD or something like that, how do you feel as somebody with both the insights you have and also your passion for resilience and being the real you? How do you feel that schools can go about encouraging that kind of openness, and also, how many details should they give depending on the age group? Does this make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I watched a video recently of these beautiful, I love American elementary schools. I love America. So I've done a bit of work in America, and it's of all the things you see in movies, in American movies, elementary schools are exactly like this. Everything else is exaggerated. So I saw a YouTube video recently of a woman who coaches her class, and every morning they stand up, salute the flag and sing the national anthem. And then they do a chant, a creed. And I can't remember it exactly, but it's like these little 5-year-olds going, "It's not okay for people to touch my private parts. It's not okay for me to do something I don't want to do. If it has to be secret, it's not okay." And I'm like, bring it, 5-year-old. Because what I loved about it was that it was like the national, I pledge allegiance to the flag. No one's focusing on that when they say it, but you ask them any time what the oath will be, and they'll tell you. And what I loved about it is it was just embedded from the beginning. And this is my actual phrase. Do you know what? We could talk about child abuse, and I don't use the term because it feels like an infringement on your civil rights. It's like not even your human rights, just your. It's like, oh, I'm slightly disconcerted. Whereas I'm talking about rape and torture. That's different.
Yeah.
And I'm not for you, but I think one.
No. You're absolutely right.
Well, I just think one thing. It's like, and this might be me. It might be me. So forgive me if it is. Things like school discos, not in a school, but as adults. So we have a school disco, and all the girls go, all the women dress up as sexy schoolgirls in short skirts and ties and shirts open, freckles, big tails. And then all the guys, and I'm just kind of like, I'm not comfortable with dressing up as a sexy schoolgirl. As someone who was raped as a schoolgirl, I'm not sure that it's what we should be promoting.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like an old guy, like Des O'Connor and Mel Sykes. It's like or Bruce Forsyth, God rest him, and Mel. It's like an 80-year-old man and a 40, and I'm like, I don't think it's. So maybe I'm hypersensitive to it, but I'm curious about what we look at and what we just accept. And my key phrase in this is, it's some of the stuff that Salma Hayek's saying, it's horrific and it's disgusting. And
that article was.
I'm shouting at the page while I'm reading it. But actually, what I think is needed is because people don't respond to anger and except for shriveling away. I think she was right to tell it. It's her story. But I think what's needed is a real just stance, just a neutral and confident stance that starts with, it's not okay, and then whatever.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that's where schools need to be. Because one thing, and this, I don't say this a lot, this is tricky. What happened to me, it was not the poverty or the neglect or the torture or the abuse. None of that was the stuff that contained me and broke me, and none of that. It was the absolute despair and hopelessness of my daily life. And the fact that I completely believed there was no escape. I was going to be dead. I was not going to survive into adulthood. And then every year after that, I was going, because there was,
You're a child.
But I knew this at 8. I knew I would die. I knew it. And here's the really awful thing, especially secondary school. But at school, you see, I thought it was obvious what was happening to me, and some of it was the abuse. I had bruises everywhere, and there was I smelt, and my hair was obviously not being taken care of. But I thought that teachers, social workers, doctors, that they knew what was happening, and that they were okay with it. I thought that they agreed with my stepdad that I was worth less than a dog. So there was no point in me trying to speak to them or ask for help, because they believe that that's what should happen. I thought that my entire educational life, and all it would have taken was for one person to say, it's not okay for people to touch you in places that you don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
That's all it would have taken. So, and I get that it's not teachers' jobs. I get that. But like Action says, kids who are loved at home come to school to learn, and kids who aren't come to school in the vague hope that someone will recognise, acknowledge, value, and God forbid love them.
Yeah.
And school was my home. It was my family. It was my life. And I'd be dead without it. So I get it's not your job to wash their uniform. It's not their job to let the parents charge their phones. And yet we've got kids who go, I mean, you take healthy eating in school and you teach kids to cook. No one checks whether they've actually got an oven. No one checks whether they actually create it. They just say, well, and I think there's this massive mismatch. That's what it was for me. There was a disparity between actual life and this 9-carat plastic life at school, which I opted out of because I believed that nobody thought I was worth it. So I don't think it matters what schools do, because there's only ever 3 things you can do to any issue, any problem. It's something, anything, or nothing. And as long as they're not doing nothing, I don't think it matters. I just think it's a case of meeting people where they are. It's like, if you want to, in my class, I always have biscuits because I knew my kids would come in not having eaten. So there's no point in me talking about the Great Tower of London if they're starving.
Sure.
Give them a biscuit. It's just, but I know that feeling, so it was an easy jump for me.
Yeah.
And I think we just get bogged down because the government makes ridiculous demands. Well, when they decide when they agree on what they're asking, the demands are ridiculous, and people get kind of caught up in trying to survive, just trying to do the day. And so much more than that. Teachers are so much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you, by the way, for.
I don't always say that because I think I think people find that hard, because I talk about in talks. I say it's because of you. It's because of you, because of people it's because of you. So to actually say, and also, I thought you were okay with it. That's quite hard to hear. But it's also an easy fix if you know that that's the case. Yeah. So I just think we can't rely, it's not 1940s, and even if it was, we can't rely on parents to do all of the nurturing and to have, I think what we think schools in particular, not teachers, but schools kind of assume that children will be delivered ready to learn. Yeah. And I just think, wake up, it's 2017, that's not happening.
And again, not without going into too much detail, because people should watch that TEDx talk. But sometimes all it takes is a passionate teacher with a cricket bat to really help turn your life around. Somebody who notices you. Well, that was the gentleman with the mustache, if I remember right, wasn't it?
And the beard and the hair and the jacket that he sweat through by 9:30, and I mean, just the most, with a Welsh accent, which I thought was totally foreign. I'm like, what? I can't understand what he's saying. I made his life a misery. I totally did. I did everything. Oh my gosh, I made his life a misery. And then he still just stood.
Good guy.
Human, it's not, this is what I mean. It's not about superheroes, it's not about super teachers. It's everyday heroes. It's people who you bring your humanity first before everything else, and then everything else is, because we lose our humanity in teaching. We become, data processors, and we don't matter, and we're cogs in the machine, and all this mental health. The last question teachers ask themselves before they leave is, why am I doing this? And if you don't have a good answer to that question, of course you leave, and then we lose talent. It's too late to wait until people are broken and unappreciated. It's like the blind leading the blind with mental health. The kids are self-harming, the teachers are falling apart. It's like, how bad does it have to get before we actually start engaging with what's going on? Because at the heart of it, we're all human. And recently I've been talking about, I've looked at, we had the Industrial Revolution, we had the Technological Revolution, and I think the next revolution is a human revolution. That's what I'm calling for. It's a human revolution where we just start taking those connections for the impactful power and difference they can make, rather than an aside,
Yeah, absolutely. On a somewhat different note, when I was preparing for our chat, I of course went onto your website, and I was having a look about a refresher, and I went onto the About Me page, and I think it was something like, the thing about my About Me page is it's really about you, which I thought was a really nice way of saying it. But I was thinking like, well, I've got to include some stuff about who is Jaz, what I mean? So when you want to get all, umphed up, when you actually really want to get yourself out, not that it seems like you have any trouble with that, but be it for a talk or a lesson with some biscuits on the side, what gets you motivated? I mean, are you a Spotify playlist kind of person? Is it exercise? What kind of works for you?
I am crap at self-care. I mean, I've got to tell you, it's a work in progress.
It's very hypocritical then, really.
Well, oh God, I know. Which is why I've started changing it, because I realised my days are numbered. I can't just need to do this and be, overweight and miserable. I can't do that. But 2 years ago, for my New Year's resolution, I make the same New Year's resolution every year, and that's give up smoking, because I've never smoked, so that's really easy to do. And the second one, never broken that resolution. And the second one I did 2 years ago was to stop shoulding on myself. So I would use the word, I should exercise more. I should focus. I should. And you know what? Should just implies shame and guilt. It doesn't motivate me. So I swapped out should for would like to. So now I say, I would like to exercise more. And even as you're saying it, you're actually making a plan for it, because it's so positive. So such a tiny language tweak. I would like to eat healthier. I would like to. So that's what motivates me, my language and the way I change it. But this week, because I always think people think I'm just happy, jolly, clappy jazz all the time. Are you kidding me? Read my history, for crying out loud. You don't get to be this sort of person without some serious therapy and work.
Sure.
And being present, and that means that there are times when it's all too much. I have 3 kids. I'm a mum. It's Christmas. It's not really. It's any time you're watching this.
Whatever it may be. Yeah.
I have a husband I like to see now and again. My commitment is that like 30% of my time is gifted, so I don't charge for 30% of the things I do. My long-term plan is that I earn enough through corporate. I generate enough income through corporate jobs that all my education stuff is free. And that's what fulfillment and success looks like for me. So that's what I'm aiming for. But I'm on my own. I write. So often I'm the person who's thought about stuff the most in the room, because schools call me in for literacy when they're in trouble. When I go and do talks, I'm the one who's inspiring. So it's actually quite a lonely place to be. And sometimes it gets, you wonder, is there any point? Am I having an impact? Is it really worth it? Although I never think that. But what motivates me is people contacting me and telling me, this is what you said, and this is what I've done. That is literally what I live on, because that's my entire why, to be a catalyst for change. So when someone takes that spark and does something about it, that can literally pick me up. I saw a documentary with Russell Brand, who I wasn't very keen on when he was taking a lot of drugs, but he'd been into rehab, and he said, this amazing thing. He said, I'm an addict, and I will use again unless I stay on point, unless I stay present. And he said, and what I do is, if I feel like using, which I do often, I have 5 things, and if I've done those 5 things, I won't use. And the 5 things were like yoga, meditation, made a list of things he's grateful for, something else, and the last one was helps someone else. And I thought there's nothing like getting you out of your own state by focusing on somebody else.
Yeah.
Not that you should do that all the time. You should take care of yourself too. But I get a lot of capacity from having conversations with people. So I made myself a list of 5 things. And the 5 things that I do, that if I'm not motivated, these are things. And a big one is, one of them is yoga, one of them is meditation, one of them is gratitude, and a massive one is help someone else. And this is what drives me. I did 5 Dinner Friday, where I just go to IKEA with the kids on Friday, and I stand in the restaurant and I buy 5 dinners for people. And it's surprisingly hard because people look at you very suspiciously and they won't let you do it. And then, so I secretly pay, or I get the woman at the till just to give her a tenner and she does it. But I'm just like, it forces you to focus on something else rather than your own sorry existence. When you actually start thinking, do you know what? I have so much. I have so much resource. I have so many people around me. When I'm feeling down and isolated, that's my choice. That's not the world reacting to me. That's my choice. And when you realize it's a choice, you can choose something else. So I think that's the reality of it.
I think I'm going to steal some of this myself, if that's...
Have it. Take it. Honestly, everything I've got is stolen from someone else. So it's now and again I have an actual idea, but mostly me.
Sure. Okay, so in the last year, who have been your heroes? Please name names. Tell us off the top of your head. Don't worry about leaving people out. Just you throw a few names out there.
I have an enormous list. Hannah Wilson, Women Ed, has challenged me beyond what's...
They're amazing, right?
Oh my gosh, I would not have spoken out if it wasn't for them. Sue Cowley's 10% braver mantra, I have embraced and owned that. So that just everyone at any stage, and the growth from Women Ed, I was not this person. I was not this. People see it as, oh, you're so confident. I'm like, no, it's not confidence. I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with things going wrong. I'm comfortable with it not working out. I'm comfortable with giving it a go and taking a risk. I'm comfortable with vulnerability. That's what you're seeing. So definitely Hannah Wilson. Jill Berry, massive hero of mine in terms of leadership. Amjad Ali, who's just a quango, is that the word? Something beginning with QU that's smart, can't remember. A contradiction unto himself. He's like my brother, which means we do argue like cat and dog as well. But constantly challenge me. A lot of my growth can be attributed to conversations on trains with Amjad.
David suits as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, David McQueen, awesome guy. Action, of course. And there's a lot of people on Twitter who, like recently, I just asked a few people, would you lip sync to Mariah Carey? And I'm thinking, they're going to think you're vacuous, Jazz. They're not going to do that. And they all just took some time out and did it. You know, like Deborah Kidd and Hugh Roberts, they've got actual things to do, these people. David Cameron, but they started, and I'm like, that's just, I'm overwhelmed. I'm bowled over by that.
Yeah. So,
you know, Ross McGill, teacher talker. I mean, I literally have an endless list. Claire Erasmus, just fake Ilgour. I literally have the A-team of colleagues, friends, and peers. No one is as lucky as me when it comes to...
And thanks to Twitter, the rest of us get to watch it all go down and even join in.
And it's all through Twitter. I mean, because I'm very big on community, I've met most of these people. There's only a handful of people I'm in touch with on Twitter I haven't met, because I will make that happen. But I didn't know any of it. I wasn't connected at all until that Twitter and Teach Meets. Anyone who organises a Teach Meet is my absolute hero, because they make a difference, enormous difference, a connection, community. So... I have a list. I'm surrounded by awesomeness.
We'll do another one of these sometime soon, where you can prepare a list and then just read it out loud to me.
I'll just write. It's all in my book. I'll just send you a copy.
Oh, no.
Names.
Perfect.
It's like Leviticus. Is it Leviticus, where it's just a list of who's related to?
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. It's like the education, inspiration, family tree.
Absolutely.
One thing that I like to do as final question in interviews is, what do you hope to achieve in the next year? Now, you in a year's time, presumably you will have built a whole new bridge and invented a new language.
I'll be running the United States of America this time next year, clearly.
I mean, yeah, we don't tend to get into politics too much, but that doesn't sound too bad right now.
No, that's an awful job. I don't want that job. Year's time.
Yes.
Gosh, that's a good question, because goal setting is another thing that I sat on a beach 2 years ago. I go to Goa. Well, I've been going to Goa every year in January to just like do yoga, meditate, clear my head. I stay in a shack. There's literally nothing there. There's no shops. You just sit on the beach, eat fruit, and do yoga. That's it. And it's awesome. It's awesome. And two years ago, I wrote down my 5 and 10 year plan. And the first one, I looked at all my heroes and thought, well, they've all got a PhD and they've become an author. So I need to future-proof myself. So my plan in 5 to 10 years was get a PhD and write a book. Literally in March, April, I had a book deal from Crown, and I haven't finished my PhD, but there's a couple of professors in phonics who are like really, they're Professor Emeritus of London Institute of Education, Sheffield. They're really highly regarded. They've asked me to come on board and write 3 papers with them. So we've just written the first one. It's been, accepted into literature. It's awesome. I'm just like, so I basically did my 5 to 10 year goals in 5 months. So I had to very quickly find new goals. And I think, where will I be in a year? I think what I'd like to do is refine what I offer and really help people have some real clarity around. I charge a lot of money to come and speak. 1, because I am completely worth it because of the effect and impact it will have. 2, because this is my job and I don't get a wage, so I have to pay a mortgage and buy my children sausages. And 3, because it costs me a lot to do what I do. So I'm aware, and what I say to people is, yes, I'll come to your school, but get 3 other schools in. That's because it's about you guys working together after I've been in.
Yeah.
And I do conferences and stuff, but what I'd love to make sure I have stuff at a free level, or the videos. That's why I do interviews like this, my TEDx. Then I have a cheap level of like 20 quid stuff that people can access. Then I have like digital insets, which is videos of me taking you through stuff, and coaching courses. I've got one on resilience, how to be a resilience ninja, and it's just for SLT teams to use. It's 20 minutes out of their weekly meeting for 6 weeks. So, and it's like 90 quid. So I want to have things that people can access and use so that I can be scalable, because what I'm always mindful of is I know that I can't commit to, like, I can't do this every day. I will burn out. So I want to make sure that I can have something sustainable and accessible to people. So I guess me in a year is I'm sitting comfortably on top of being able to meet everybody's need without being in a mush. Maybe that's not a big enough dream though. Maybe I should be running the United States. I don't know. But I tell you what it is. It's earning enough through corporate work that I can give everything to education for free. That really would be. That's my dream.
That sounds fantastic. Well, we should get together in a year and see where we're at with that. But Jaz, thank you so much for this. It's just been fantastic. Really looking forward to sharing this with our audience. I know that they're going to love it, absolutely. Jaz Ampaw-Farr, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Cheers.